Hello everyone, and welcome to the Verdict is In podcast. Today I have with me Ollie Wanjohi, and today we're going to be talking about how to figure out your life goals, build good habits, and then maintain those habits once you've built them. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so as he said, Ollie Wanjohi. I just graduated about 3 months ago, and yeah, we're here to talk about habits, etc., stuff like that, and I'm excited.
What are you up to at the moment?
The main one is a property business. So I opened a property business with my brother a few months ago, and we're looking to invest in property, manage property, everything property literally, and get onto the stage where we're doing property development and stuff like that. So yeah, we opened that. We've got it's going well so far. We've got 2 service accommodation units, so that's like Airbnb and stuff like that. Basically, they're going well. We're looking to buy our first property in Rugby, a 2-bed terrace house. And so yeah, the last few weeks I've been kind of liaising with the solicitor, the mortgage broker, the surveyor, etc., just getting everything sorted, and it's been a nice learning experience.
Nice,
Yeah.
Glad to hear it. So do you want to explain briefly, because there's a reason I've invited you to come and do this episode on the podcast. You have a special interest in kind of personal development and self-growth. So do you want to give a little bit of like an explanation as to what interested you in that originally and why you think everyone should have an interest for self-improvement?
I like it. So I'd say for me personally, it started when I was in first year, so around 3 years ago. But it started actually just before that, but think about it, because so my brother kind of started it as well. He's the one that kind of got me introduced to it. But at the time, I wasn't in the kind of headspace to listen to it, or some of the things he'd say, and he'd say I'd question, etc. But then when I came to university, I started my own journey, and the book that kicked it off was a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that literally shifted my paradigm in so many different ways, talking about lifelong learning, about investing in assets, about just so many different things that I wasn't really taught at school. And I think the situation I was kind of listening to it or reading it, in as well, was like perfect, because it was during a time, you'll remember, like first year, I think it was second term, when loads of people were staying home. They were staying home because they could save money. And so most of my friends were at home. I remember I was in my room, it was night, I was reading this book, and it's like I was reading it and I could hear kind of like the normal, and it's part of the university experience as well, but like the normal people that would like be going out drinking, etc., outside, and I could literally feel myself. It kind of felt like almost like a spiritual enlightening or like an awakening, honestly. Like I could feel myself kind of almost outside of my body for a second. I can't really explain it, but it felt like I was outside of my body, and I could feel myself kind of separate myself from the average way of doing things, like the ordinary way of doing things, etc. And yeah, that's where it started, and here we are many books later, many experiences later, and yeah. I think personal development and just growth and all of them things like that, firstly, it's the most important thing, one of the most important things to do in life, because you don't want to be the same person you were when you were 20, when you're 30, do you know what I mean? And I feel like, especially if you're not going out of your way to learn anything or self-educate yourself and things, the things that school taught you, like if we think about it, didn't really teach us that many things. It taught us things that matter, so indirectly, like social skills, like being around people, etc., numeracy skills. But I'd say it's mainly the basic numeracy skills and basic literacy skills. But yeah, it didn't really teach us, everyone knows it, tax, investing, or just multiple things. So I think when people leave, and it's a common experience as well, when people leave, let's say secondary school, university as well, literally a lot, I think like maybe 75% of people that leave university still don't really know what they want to do, or they haven't been taught certain things. And yeah, so I think personal development is important for every age group, but starting it when you're young can reap like serious benefits when you're older. And I think you feel it when you start as well. So the first few, there's a guy called Jim Rohn who's like a self-development, or was even, because he passed away, but he was like a self-development guru and like all of that kind of stuff, worth like, I don't even know how much, but hundreds of millions and stuff like that. And he said something which I like he said something about when you start personal development, like the initial returns are so good, you'll never really want to stop. And I felt that throughout my own life in so many different ways. Certain things that were maybe weaknesses before are now strengths. And yeah, so I don't know about that. It's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think it's literally one of the most important things, and it's so fulfilling as well. I think it's really easy to get in a state of, or when you're stagnant, when you don't feel like you're doing anything, or when you're just stagnant, when you feel stagnant, I think that's an easy kind of state to get. It's a lot easier to be depressed, etc. But when you're growing and stuff, and when you're constantly learning stuff, that's what gives you excitement, and that's more of a fulfilling way to achieve certain things or do certain things, even like on a dopamine level, etc. Than certain other things that wouldn't be. I don't know, like certain other things that would be more cheap dopamine and stuff like that, you know?
No, yeah, 100% makes sense. I think your point is kind of like you want to get yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because in your comfort zone, it feels safe, but you're just kind of letting everything pass you by.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of, although personal development can be quite a scary journey to undertake, because it just like by definition means doing things you don't want to do but like should do, or like the thing you don't want to do but you want the benefits that come with that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just kind of have to do the thing, and then that in itself is usually quite a scary, anxiety inducing process. But it's also freeing. Like, it's just boring. After a while, it just does get really boring to be in your comfort zone. It's just kind of like your life is the same monotony of like self-soothing, like every day.
Mm.
And it gets to a point where you wished you started earlier. But how can someone start the process?
How can someone start?
Of identifying, I think obviously the first step is identifying what your life goals are. So do you have any tips for how you can start that process of identifying your life goals?
I think that's a good question. And I think if someone kind of thought about I think most people would have maybe some sort of ideas of what they'd want their goals to be. If they got rid of all of their kind of limit, maybe if they have limiting beliefs, or they believe that, they can't do this, or scared to leave their comfort zone, like you were saying. I think most people have an idea of certain things they'd want to achieve. And I'd say the best kind of life goal, I think the ultimate life goal that would be one of the best ones to achieve or seek would be mainly just being the best version of yourself. So like literally spending some time, pen and paper is literally magical as well, by the way. There's like, they've done studies, etc. and stuff like that, and they found out that writing something on pen and paper can help you manifest things about 40% more successfully than just thinking about it and stuff like that. So writing pen and paper, to get that clarity of mind, it's like you're kind of, once you're writing it, you're like writing it into the universe almost. Could recommend one of the things that I started with. I had a friend called Freedom who, he told me about an exercise he did where you basically, get in pen and paper, no distractions, and write on one side your strengths and one side your weaknesses. And you write, it takes a decent amount of self-awareness. And on one side you write, the strengths, the areas that you want to work on to get in the top 10% of a certain skill set, and your weaknesses, the areas you want to work on to aid your overall improvement. And so, I like the sound of it. I did it myself. I realized that two of my main weaknesses were self-discipline and organization. Like if I was to explain it, especially the organization one. So first year I had 5 or 6 modules, one of them, let's say 6. And I had one notebook that I'd literally, so say if I had one thing like EU law, I'd write on that piece of paper, rip it out, put it into a chest of drawers, and then do the same with like tort law, public law, etc. So by the end of the year, when it came to revision and stuff, I'd literally just had a folder or like a pile of unorganized sheets, etc. and stuff like that. So that's an example of the organization side of things. So when I did that anyway, I kind of realized that firstly, it's not, I'd want to work on it. Do you know what I mean? So I think it starts off with, once you identify it and once you realize like, oh, like if you sorted out these things, then how would just aid your overall improvement and how much better you can be as a person. Once I realized that, I started to work on it. I started reading certain books on that helped me with organization and self-discipline. A big book that had one of the best ones I've read so far is a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by a guy called Stephen Covey. And I'd attribute that book to helping me go from someone who, in first year was kind of always behind, never, always felt like I was bottom of the class, to literally like the opposite for second and third year.
It ties in quite nicely with kind of like self-reflection, because I feel like through all of if you do decide to embark a journey of kind of like self-improvement, self-reflection is present in all of them. It's something that you start, and if you're doing it well, you never stop, because at each stage you have to reevaluate whether you're doing the right thing, whether something needs to change, or I don't know.
No, you're making sense. Honestly, I agree as well.
When you're at that starting point and you kind of like, you maybe haven't read any books yet and you're just kind of like there with yourself, your ability to self-reflect is something that is not as developed as it will be, later on down the line. So do you have any kind of like tips for like what people should be thinking about, or kind of like how they should be aiming their intentions when they do try and self-reflect right at the start?
So I kind of have two different like streams of thought when you kind of say that. One thing I think about, which is a common thing because it's so beneficial, I do it myself, is journaling. So every night before you go to sleep, literally just pen, get yourself a nice little notebook so it's kind of attractive and stuff like that. And you just write about how your day went and realize the kind of the way you think about things as well. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think journaling is a good self-reflection tool. I also think, I don't know if it's kind of relevant to the question, but I think I'm going to tie it in somehow. So one thing, if you do vision what I talked about earlier, like the best version of yourself, like how he dresses, how he speaks, what he does, what his day looks like, etc. And just same thing again. Honestly, pen and paper is such a beautiful tool, and I'd encourage that for so many different levels. So yeah, pen and paper, write what does the best version of you look like, or like just visualize them first and write down some of the maybe start off with some of the things he would have achieved. So for example, my greatest version of myself is someone who's obviously confident, takes charge of his day. He is someone who has a very large property portfolio that's allowed him the financial freedom to do the things he really wants to do. Someone who invests in the community as well. Someone who is well known in the property space. Someone who takes care of his health. Someone who is very knowledgeable. Someone who's growing every day, etc. Stuff like that, basically. And when you do this, it's kind of liberating because you start to picture it a lot more. Do you know what I mean? And once you do that, then you can write what kind of person you need to be to achieve those things. So you might need to be self-disciplined, man of integrity, organized, etc., etc. So it's kind of almost like beginning with the end goal in life, and then working backwards from there, and then realizing the kind of things you need to work on to be that person, and then working on them like day in, day out, like 1% better, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And it's like, it's not even just the bigger values that you identify. I need to be like this. For example, I need to be organized. I need to be confident. I need to take charge of my day. It's also you can manipulate it to just like the everyday little decisions. It's like, is this something that is going to help me achieve that? And I think that is probably one of the most important ways of kind of bringing it into fruition, because it's so easy to look at your daily life or like things that come up in your daily life and say, it doesn't matter if I, go out tonight, even though I probably shouldn't because I've got a lot of work to do. I should probably catch up with, it's like, oh, it's just once, it won't hurt. But then if you have that kind of mindset, you're going to have that kind of mindset for like a lot of other small decisions throughout your day.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's just like by gradually building it up and also changing your mindset, you put yourself in a much better position to make that a reality by doing the small things right.
I literally agree with you completely. And I think you touched on an important thing, how doing one thing right can kind of have a ripple effect on other areas of your life. And it's so true. Like even if it's something like, for example, if you're not someone that makes your bed in the morning or something like that, making your bed every morning, something that seems so small, like you're saying, the small things kind of add up, and it's the small things that lead to the big things anyway. So yeah, something like making your bed every morning, get into that habit. Once you started doing that, there's a term, I don't think I remember it, but it's basically along the lines of when you start building good habits for yourself, it basically just makes it easier to build other good habits. But yeah, so it's kind of like that, starting with one thing, maybe doing that consistently, and it becomes a part of your life. Like just, it feels weird, it's a habit, so it's ingrained, it feels weird not to do it, you know what I mean? And yeah, then other things start becoming easier. And yeah, so I think that was an important thing that I wanted to kind of speak about.
Yeah, well, we're essentially talking about habits, aren't we, at this point? And so why do you think habits are so crucial to achieving your life goals?
Because habits are the thing that get you there. So we just finished talking about goals, for example. I'll kind of link the two. So the goal is an important thing to establish because it gives you that direction and stuff like that. But it's the the habits that will get you to that goal. Do you know what I mean? People can think like having habits restricts your freedom, but in reality, not having habits is the thing that restricts your freedom, because if you don't have good health habits, you'll always feel short on energy. If you don't have good studying habits, you'll always be behind. If you don't have good financial habits, you'll always be low on money and stuff like that. So I guess it's kind of a shift in your the way you view it. If you're someone that thinks, oh, having habits is this, or, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Having good habits is literally the thing that gives you the freedom that you'd want to do anything, to do all of the good things you want in life. Even in terms of, if you do have a goal as well. So I'll say in terms of, there's leading and lagging indicators, which is, the lagging indicator is basically the goal. And then the leading indicator is the things that get you to that goal. So say if your goal is to gain 5 pounds of muscle, that's the lagging indicator. But the leading indicator are the things you do every single day to get to that stage. Do you know what I mean? So I think having the goal is most important for giving you the direction and the vision and the clarity. And then from there, it's mainly the habits that you do that get you to that goal. It's like the systems or the things that get you to there. Because if you're someone that, when you get to the stage where, if you've developed that discipline and you know, the integrity, you do what you're going to say, you know, I decide, therefore I do, that kind of stuff, then you already know, like, you set a goal, okay, cool. You don't really have to think about a goal too much. You've set it up, you know what's going on, but then you're doing the things daily. The goal is literally just a byproduct. Like, it just happens naturally. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very important distinction, is because I don't know, I see people sometimes who see the goal and then kind of like the dopamine that they get just from like visualizing the goal and imagining themselves in that position stops them from building the habits, because they spend more time thinking about who they want to be and like what it would be like to be that person, than actually spending time doing the leading indicators. Spend too much time focusing on the lagging indicator and not enough time on the leading indicator, and then it's kind of like you kind of digging that pit back into square one, because you get to a point where you kind of feel like you haven't made any progress, and then you just kind of like, what's the point? And then you go back to however you were at the beginning, and then you just basically done a full circle and achieve nothing from it. I think it's important to, once you have that kind of like idea and that image of who you want to be, it's important, one, not to put yourself down for not being that person, but it's equally important to not conflate your ego with that person just because you think you're capable of achieving it. You know, just because you can doesn't mean you will. It's very important, like you said, that you just get the foundations of what it is that's actually going to look like in everyday life, and not what's it going to be like to reap the rewards once I've made it to that place. Because if you're just only thinking about the rewards that come with that status or that goal, you'll never get there.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And I think you just touched on something very important again. It's it's all well and good to have the goals, etc. But more importantly is the why. You know what I mean? So why do you want to achieve that goal? And I think a good exercise that I've done myself is basically asking yourself why until you can't ask yourself why anymore. So I'll give an example with my health, for example, or the things I'm eating. So I had once again, honestly, pen and paper. I'm a big advocate for it. So I was pen and paper. I had a goal. Maybe I think my goal was like, I wanted to start eating healthily, basically. Why did I want to start eating healthily? So I can feel good. Why do I want to feel good? So when you feel good, you look good. Or why do I want to feel good? Because when you feel good, then I can perform better. Why do I want to perform better? Because if I perform better, then I can do more. Why do I want to do more? Because I just want to be and basically I kept doing that, the why process, until the final answer was, I just want to be the best version of myself. So when you've kind of established that it's more like, it's a lot more of a deeply entrenched goal than being healthy. So then you kind of put things into perspective, and it's like, if you're doing something, it's not just, I want to be healthy, like I want to be the best version of myself. And you said something earlier as well about how when you set a goal, you can kind of like think like, oh, like, would this get to my goal, etc. as well. So like the more deeply entrenched the goal is, the deeper the why, it kind of gets embedded into your subconscious. And then you, even on a subconscious level or an unconscious level, you're doing things that kind of are in alignment with that, or it leads you to certain things and certain activities that will help you with your goal. Maybe if it's books, or if it's certain people you want to seek out, or certain kind of events, etc. And also there's something called, I don't know too much about this one, but I can't do that shit. I don't remember what that is. But basically something that you know how, for example, if you buy a blue car, and you start seeing that blue car like everywhere, it's something in your brain. I forgot what the thing's called specifically, but basically, it's a thing that filters your attention on things that matter. So, say for example, now, like obviously, if you put your attention on the chair we're on now, like you can feel the pressure or like the ground, but we don't focus on that on a moment to moment basis. We focus on the things that are more important to us. So yeah, literally when you set a goal as well, so it's the same way when you buy a new car, you start seeing the same car everywhere, etc. It's not like that car is actually more prevalent there. It's just your brain's kind of attuned to seeing that thing. So that's another thing with goals as well. When you set a goal, you start seeing more things that would like help you with that goal, or things that are relevant to that goal. So for example, with the property stuff, so when I did read kind of my first book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, was also in like investing, etc. It was big on property, stuff like that. The next maybe 2 months, I kept looking at places like, or just looking at certain builders like, oh, that'll be a good property to get, or, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So it kind of attracts, once it's in your head, like thoughts turn into reality, all that kind of stuff, where you track the thoughts you think about, etc. as well. So yeah, it was kind of, I'd bear that in mind as well. So when you set the goal, it kind of gets embedded into your subconscious, and you just start seeing that thing more. So it gives you direction and guidance, rather than if you don't have a goal, you're kind of unguided and just floating about almost.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've kind of already spoken about obstacles that people face when they're already trying to establish habits. And like you said, it's kind of like overcoming that is by getting it so embedded in your head that it's muscle memory. You're not even thinking about your thoughts about doing that thing. It's just that's how you do it. But it's so hard, especially for people who don't have that kind of drive, who are kind of like feel like they're improving themselves because they have to improve themselves, which kind of goes against what we've already said, because you shouldn't be doing it just because you feel like you have to do it. If you want to really properly go on a journey of self-improvement, it has to be embedded deeply in what you want and what you desire.
I think you touched on an important thing. So yeah, your attitude towards things and your attitude in general, but also just having the awareness that anyone that you look, for example, I love personal growth, etc. It's literally a core value of mine. It's something that I'm passionate about and stuff like that. But obviously, I wasn't always this way. It's something that as you start doing it, you pick it up as a passion. Also, just having awareness, you don't have to. If you look at someone that's a few years into their journey, or maybe multiple, kind of comparing their chapter 10, for example, to your chapter 1, it doesn't have. And then that comes into the whole comparing yourself and comparing yourself to others, etc. But you said an important thing. I guess your attitude is very important.
That's an important aspect that you just touched upon there, actually, is which is comparing yourself to other people, because I think that's probably one of the biggest barriers as well to people being able to maintain their good habits, is they see other people and they feel like, I'm trying as hard as I can. I can't really give any more, and I keep, maybe I'm making mistakes here, I ate something I shouldn't have, or I went out when I shouldn't have. And that makes it even harder to maintain and kind of stick with everything that you want to do. But it's completely useless comparing yourself to other people, because it's so, like you said, it's like you don't know what stage they're at in their story, really. You're seeing where they are right now in comparison to where you are right now. But context is so important with something, especially with comparison of personal growth journeys. You don't know what they've had through their life, like the assets, the resources that they've been able to use, because that also makes a big difference. The environment that you grew up in, the access that you had to kind of resources that help you become that kind of person is so crucial to someone's personal growth journey. And so it's all about kind of, you got to be disciplined with yourself, but you also have to be kind to yourself.
It's true. So oh god, that last sentence, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to say, but now you just made me want to say two things. But I'll start with the first one. So yeah, the whole comparing yourself thing, what your kind of internal critic does is like, it takes one field or one thing, and it acts as if that's the only thing that's important. So say if it's just strength or something like that, like you might think, oh, this guy's stronger than me, whatever, you're comparing yourself to him. It treats that one aspect as if it's the only thing that's important. So you might be stronger than you, but maybe his home life isn't as good as yours, or someone might be wealthier than you, or seem like he's doing better, but in reality maybe home life falling apart, maybe his health's bad, etc. So it's kind of that importance as well to realize that that's not the only whatever domain it kind of is, that's not the only domain that matters. And just making yourself kind of aware of that, and also then just the only person you want to compare yourself is to is kind of who you were yesterday. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, just having that awareness, and also I guess kind of having the more of a growth mindset as well. Two people can look at someone doing well that's maybe perhaps doing better than them in that one field, or maybe if it might seem to them like multiple fields, etc. One can feel envious, or one can feel kind of inspired and driven and stuff like that. And envy in reality is literally just unhappy admiration. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like love and fear at the same time. So yeah, I guess it's kind of,
I like that.
Yeah.
I heard that before.
Yeah.
Unhappy admiration.
Literally. So I guess it's the way you look at it, and how much of a growth mindset you kind of have to situations. Because, for example, I had a friend that inspired me, a guy called Freedom. The guy who had showed me the first exercise thing that I did back then when I was just starting out, and he was on his maybe chapter 4 or whatever. It didn't matter. If anything, it inspired me, and it inspired me to do better for myself and push myself, and it kind of like ignited a kind of flame in me, rather than looking at it in maybe some people, they'll think, oh, like, the unhappy admiration, oh, this or that, or because of that, or do you know what I mean? Just kind of stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of the way you think about things in terms of so many things, and especially your attitude towards life in general can play a big difference. It's definitely an advantage to view it as something like inspiration, because then it gives you that fire in the belly. So I'd say there's kind of two different states to be in. There's like fire and water. So like fire is the ambition, the makes you want to do things, etc. Water is the more the still, the steady, the contentment with life. And I think a mixture of two. I don't know the specific balance, but if there's too much water, if there's too much kind of then that's the whole, we mentioned comfort zones earlier. If you're just too always like content, or you don't really want to achieve the greatness that you're set out to achieve, because everybody is capable of so many amazing things, and everyone's capable of being just excellent. Do you know what I mean? But obviously not everyone gets to that stage of fulfilling their potential, because they don't do the things, I guess, the habits and the things that lead to their potential. But also you mentioned an important point about not everyone has the same background. Someone could have grown up in a house where education is encouraged, whereas someone could have grown up in one where education is like kind of floundered upon, or someone could have grown up into an economy that's flourishing, that's all of that kind of stuff. Someone could have grown up into like a war-torn country. So you mentioned an important thing about environment is obviously kind of so important, but I think it's once you're made aware, if someone makes you aware of these kind of things, then it's less so if you're never aware, because if you don't know about all of this stuff and the importance of it, then you could argue, it's not really, maybe perhaps your fault or something. But if you're something or someone around you kind of maybe exposes you to like them kind of things, then I guess the onus is more on you basically, and stuff like that. So it's a very important point that not everyone was maybe not growing up in the environment that they're all growing up in, etc. is a very big thing.
Yeah, definitely. I knew about it, or like personal growth, self-development, fairly early, but I just didn't. I was so determined to like do it my way, and then that is what kind of like stops me from accepting that shit. Maybe hundreds of other people who have dedicated themselves to the topic of self-development and personal growth might know a little bit more than I do about self-growth, and it was coming to terms with that, kind of just like, you can't do it all yourself, and you can't do it all your own way. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, is to let go of how I think something should be done, and kind of see maybe someone else has a much better idea, or because they've experienced that same situation before.
You said a lot of important things. I agree with you as well, and I think it's also, you were saying my way, and I think you can definitely still grow the way you. For example, I'm someone that likes reading. Maybe not everyone might. Not everyone might like reading the way I like it, but you don't have to. There's other avenues. If you don't like reading, maybe it's videos or whatever. So I think the aspect of doing it your way is still valid, because you don't have to do it the exact same way that someone else did, especially if it kind of doesn't suit the kind of person you are and stuff like that. But I think there is definitely real value in looking at people who've actually done whatever it is you want to achieve, if there's certain things, or whatever it is you want to perhaps be like, or certain characteristics you like in a person, looking at them and then just realize that, okay, this person's basically done what I'm trying to do, he must maybe know, maybe, yeah, he likely knows something that you don't know, or let me see what he's doing and certain things that he's doing, or maybe the way he thinks, etc., and let me soak it in and stuff like that, rather than just, because it'll be very hard if you go through life, if it's fully like your own way, so you don't really, you have goals, etc., but you're just like, oh, like I want to do it this way, or etc., then it can be a lot harder to actually get to that, because obviously there could be certain general blueprints or general ways of like viewing, just so many different things that can come into play when you, and then there's the whole thing about learning from yourself. So it's important to learn from maybe your mistakes or your life, etc., and stuff like that. That's very important, even though not everyone does, because obviously if everyone learned from the mistakes, the world could be such a, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Takes that evaluation. But yeah, so it's one thing to learn from your mistakes or learn from your experience, but learning from others' experience is the way that's like, is wiser in my opinion, because say for example, it could save you, someone 10 years down the line, say whatever form it is, maybe it's a book or a video or anything, any way that you can, any medium to connect with this person almost. If you take his knowledge, that could literally save you 10 years of trying to do something the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? Or stuff like that. So I think it's very important to learn from your own experiences, but learning from other people's experiences is gives you time leverage, saves you so much time, except so many things. So
Yeah, I think that's exactly where, like, I've realised this. When I was saying that it was kind of like I wanted to do it my way, it was kind of like the things I wanted to do my way conflicted with the way that you should do them to actually kind of like progress. It was like I didn't want to do the simple stuff, you know, like be organised, you know, write things down, you know, I can keep it all in my head. It's easier for me. I can't be asked to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it this way. Let me show you. But like, it just didn't, it's not sustainable because, you know, using that as an example, taking it further, keeping everything in your head, like your head is such a scattered thing. It's like, it's not built really for, well, I mean, looking after yourself. It's not perfectly built for that. We're very much controlled by our emotions, and our emotions usually go against the like logical, analytical right thing to do in that situation.
And I think it's important to, when you kind of say majority as well, I guess it's majority in what sense as well? Because if say, for example, majority is like the general population, like if you're just doing the things that, say, the general population are doing, then you're going to get what the general population has, or the general kind of, you know, that kind of stuff. And if that's what you want, then it's fine. You don't have to be someone that wants to achieve the craziest things and stuff like that in life. Yeah, I guess it's, the majority isn't always right, do you know what I mean? So I guess it's the people, it's really just if you have the goal genuinely gives you so much direction. If you have the goals in place, then following the people or listening to the people who, and you don't have to agree with everything they say. They could have certain things right, but maybe you don't agree with this thing, but being open-minded enough to listen to what they have to say, because it can impact you. But so yeah, I think it's mainly, if you have the goal, then you kind of know what people you'd want to listen to, people that are doing higher up, or maybe on their chapter 10 or whatever chapter is, etc., and then absorb things from them.
So when I've achieved my goals, those tend to be the points at which I'm the most unmotivated and kind of untethered, because, you know, you've completed a goal. There's a point of, you know, happiness, and then you're kind of thinking, yeah, you know, I can kind of let off a little bit, but really, that's that you have to kind of strike while the iron's hot, because, like you said, it's kind of like like we've said before, it's a never-ending, you know, journey. But what would you say about that?
I hear what you're saying. So firstly, with the never-ending journey point, it's firstly realizing that absolute perfection is literally unattainable. So that means there's literally never-ending room for improvement and stuff like that. Like if you really think about it, there's never-ending room. So success itself isn't necessarily a destination or anything like that. Or when you're maybe achieving it, you can fall in love with the journey, and it's the journey and the fulfillment that I can give you and stuff like that. That for me is a big thing. And you mentioned, achieving your goals and maybe kind of putting your foot off the brake and stuff like that. I think that it's important to, maybe you've climbed one mountain, then when you kind of climb one, you see like maybe other higher ones that you might want to climb. But I think it's also important to get the right balance and the way you look at it, because you can be someone that's just completely ambitious. You climb one mountain, you see another one that's high, you want to climb it, you keep climbing, etc. but you do also need to be, and it comes back to the fire and water thing as well. You need to be kind of content and fulfilled. You can't just be like, or say your goal is to like make £1 million or something like that. You can't just put so much maybe importance on it or such a focus on it that you're not happy until you achieve it. And then when you achieve it, you're still not happy. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's, important to have the goals, but also you need to get the right balance in having a goal and also, just being content, etc. day to day as well. Do you know what I mean? Like the goal is not you can't be someone that's not happy until you get this, because when you get it, you're still not going to be happy. Then it might be the next thing. So I think there's a balance that you kind of need to strike as well.
So what do you think is the most important thing to take away to anyone listening, if there is anyone out there? What do you think the most important thing to take away from today is if they are looking to embark on their own self-improvement journey?
I guess it would be the if you could listen to the comparing yourself with others part. I think that's a big thing. And also just, I guess, the importance of goals, because that's kind of what directs everything and gives you the vision and stuff like that. So if you could, like, genuinely, and 15 minutes of your time, what you really have to do is honestly, like, if you do some of the exercises I've recommended, if it's the self-evaluation one, the strengths and weaknesses thing, but just really do those things, and then you kind of see, like, I'm good at these things. You want to work on them to, be kind of excel in those things because they're your strengths. But also, working on your improvements, and you really see how, once you start doing it, you really see how much of an impact it has on your overall life, and hopefully you fall in love with the process. So, I guess the one thing I'd say is, oh gosh, I just said like one thing, but I said three. But I guess I'd say just try the exercise of visualizing the best version of yourself and kind of the attributes you need to be, and also having compassion with yourself. Self-compassion is a big thing as well, because like you were saying, you don't want to, say for example, if you don't, you won't be perfect every single time, for example, but you don't want to beat yourself up about not doing the right thing, etc. Just kind of get back on get going. So there's a certain amount of, you need self-compassion for yourself in general. And
beautifully put. I think those are definitely the key points. As I would echo the exact same thing. It's just like, figure out what you want and then go there, but don't beat yourself up because you're not there today or tomorrow or a month.
Exactly.
Give yourself a reasonable time frame. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
No, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you.